Hello everybody and welcome to this special episode of Activist Lawyer. You will know that at the end of last year we decided to focus on the ongoing issue in Palestine, and we've been so lucky to be able to reach out to a number of Palestinian lawyers and organisations that are working on legal issues, and we will have them join us as guests on our show. So I am so delighted to be joined by Soraida Hussein, who is a long-time women's rights activist. She is one of the co-founders of the Women's Centre for Legal Aid and Counselling, heading its research, documentation and advocacy units. Currently, Soraida is a board member of the West Bank Gaza Musical Institution, Al Kamanjati, and an assembly member in the Women and Family Affairs Centre based in Nablus. With other academic women and in collaboration with Cardiff University, she has prepared an undergraduate curriculum for the class Law and Women in Palestine at Al Najah University. She also has an LLM from Warwick University. Born in Colombia, Soraida is fluent in Arabic, English and Spanish and has published many articles on women's issues. In 2004, the Canadian Board of Films produced the movie Soraida, A Woman of Palestine.
Hi, thank you, Sarah. Thank you for your work.
Thank you so much for giving me your time today in what is a very significant week. Just for listeners, today is the 12th of January 2024, and it's the second day of the hearing before the ICJ, and Israel are defending the South Africa's case against them, charging them with genocide. So there's a lot happening, and that's why I appreciate you taking your time out. So Soraida, before we get into some of our questions, perhaps you might just share a little bit about your work, your significant work, and what the organisation you work with does.
Yes, what we do is essentially work with create partnerships with organizations, especially women organizations. And for example, if it's not a woman organization, like we do with the hospital in Gaza, that is one of our partners, then we focus with them on women's issues within the hospital and the services they do. We do a lot of work with partners that work in sexual and reproductive health, GBV issues also, economic empowerment, political empowerment, and we also work with the coalitions. There are two coalitions that are hosted by 32 organizations, West Bank and Gaza, and these coalitions are working, for example, lately on a law that will criminalize violence against women.
Excellent.
And now, with the attacks that are going on in Gaza, our work takes the form of emergency and quick response with our partners, and especially in Gaza, but also in the West Bank, because there have been also attacks on civilian people in the West Bank. So it's like emergency mode now that we are working with them.
Sure, I imagine.
With our partners.
Wow. Okay, so getting into some of the questions that I have here as well, and I'm just going to reflect a little bit on the harrowing statistics that we've been reading over the last months, three, leading into 4 months now. This is out of date because we know that every day the numbers increase rapidly. But I'm just going to take an extract from the ICJ filing by South Africa, which was a significant document. I read it, and like yourself, Soraida, to see everything put in one place, it's still so chilling and harrowing to see the detail, despite the fact that we have been following this for, many, many weeks now. But anyway, just to take a little extract from that, Israel's actions are impacting Palestinian women and children in Gaza especially severely, with 70% of those killed estimated to be women and children. 2 mothers are estimated to be killed every hour in Gaza. Over 7,729 children were estimated to have been killed by the 11th of December 2023, so we're a month on from that. And at least 4,700 children are missing and believed to be buried under the rubble. So I suppose my first question is, and I will say that those figures have increased and they were discussed yesterday when the legal team for South Africa delivered their opening statements. Why, Soraida, are women and children so disproportionately bearing the brunt of this ongoing aggression? And maybe you can tell us how maybe women and girls are being particularly impacted by it.
Yes, it's a two-level. Maybe how I read it, and it's in the end it's an opinion of a simple Palestinian woman. So maybe somebody will bring a different theory to what to this thing. For me, is that it's two level. It's one level that we having always been persecuted on the demographic level. That killing more, the more that we are killed, the less will be on living on this earth. So the Israelis will surplus us in numbers. So they want to. The plan is to convert us into the minority of our own land.
Mm-hmm.
Although we are the indigenous owners of this land, but it's like after a while when you come and count us, we are the minority. So you say even if you are the indigenous people, you are 10% of this land. So this is one of the wars. And if you want to kill a people, then you attack women, you attack the womb, you attack those who are bringing life, those who are bringing the children. So the more women are killed and the more mothers are killed, then this is part of the plan. It's a barbaric plan, but we know. And the thing is that when we talk about it, it sounds like exaggerating because it's happening today. It's not happening years ago, and it's not that it happened with the Indians in North America, for example. The indigenous people of North America. It's happening today.
Yeah.
At this in the eyes, in front of everybody. So this is one of the things that women have to be are targeted. Another thing is that women take care of the house and take care of the children and take care of and they bring the peace within the household.
Sure.
So she's in the house.
Yeah.
She's there in the house, taking care of the children, preparing something to eat for everybody. So she's embracing the place that should be secured and peace for everybody. As humans, family, house. She's there.
Yeah.
So when they attack the house, the women are inside the houses. Men, as you see on the TVs, maybe on the screens, they are trying to get people from the houses that are already destroyed, or they are in the hospitals trying to bury the bodies of brothers, sisters, and even relatives or anyone that they don't know even. So this is two reasons altogether why this number of women maybe, and because the houses are being targeted. It's not, for example, places where they think that the fighters are existing. It's houses with civilians.
Sure.
And this is part of the diabolic plan that they have in mind.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that has struck me, and I think about it quite frequently, is that 5,500 of approximately, they have stated this in the ICJ filing as well, but it's based on information that's been gathered by various NGOs and the UN. 52,000 pregnant Palestinian women in Gaza are given birth. So 5,500 of them who are given birth each month are doing so in, it says here unsafe conditions. But I imagine where there's no clean water and very little medical assistance at this stage, it must be an absolute abhorrent situation. And the risk of infection and medical complications, I can't begin to understand. This, you've mentioned it as being barbaric. The level of the reproductive violence inflicted on Palestinian women, and of course that affects newborn babies and children, it could qualify as violations under several different conventions under international law, and such acts of violence will have been raised this week. But in your opinion, how have governments, particularly those who do prioritise gender equality and women's rights in their foreign policy, how have governments around the world failed Palestinian women? And what message does this send to us in terms of the effectiveness of international law and policy that we all seek to rely on?
Yes, you know what? Today, this morning, I was thinking about that this case that South Africa raised in the International Court of Justice is saving the international humanitarian law and is saving the human rights law general. Because more people every day are having less faith on international tools and mechanisms, less faith on all these agreements and declarations, and the whole human rights system is having every day less credibility.
Yeah.
When South Africa puts this case and the International Court of Justice comes, and we hear the amount of justice in the intervention of South Africa and the narrative and the discourse that they are using, so they are saving the whole system of human rights again, because more people are having less faith on all this. Yeah. Imagine international human rights organizations, international humanitarian organizations such as World Health and Food Health Organization, all this, and UN Women and all are not able to do what they were supposed to be doing. Yeah. And one of these organizations, one of the directors of these organizations goes to the hospitals and then acts as if he is a journalist. He is in the hospital and he says, "This is happening, I saw this, I saw that," and then he leaves. No, this is not your work. This is not your role. Your role is to save these people there. Your role is to do the utmost and not play the role, give us a report that all the journalists are doing. So this failure in front of the eyes of people of these organizations are now is being saved in the International Court of Justice, because it's another part of the system. So people will say, okay, so accountability can be there on the table now of these judges. One thing. Another thing is, okay, so after 70 years of killing and doing what they do, now somebody is asking them why and how, and they might be prosecuted. So this is a very important message for the humanity, not for Palestinians only, for the whole humanity and for the whole system. Yes, this system is created. We should be able to use it, and those under oppression should be able to look high for justice to this system.
Absolutely. Well, we'll wait and see what happens with that. And also, I suppose, I've read so many different articles. There's so many different perspectives and narratives on this. But what struck me is you do see a lot of organisations that will say that Gaza is a feminist issue. What does this mean for you? What does this entail, and is that correct?
For me and for many of us, it's something that struck us personally at more than one level. As Palestinians, our identity, as these are sisters, these are brothers, these are friends, this is my people. So when my people is hungry and is thirsty, it touches me also. It touches me. When a pregnant woman is not able to produce milk because she has not enough liquids, and then she's looking for bottled milk, and then she doesn't find enough quantity, it makes us like we need extra strength to continue with our daily day. We need extra strength to keep healthy, to keep thinking that, yes, there will be a better day for my people in Gaza. Yeah. Because the thing is that the tales are maybe like a horror film, like hell has been opened and we are seeing hell. What is hell? Because the details, when somebody calls and says, my tent has been burned, they destroyed the house where my tent was, and now I have no tent. Yeah. This man with the wife and 3 married children with their wives and their children are now where they need somebody immediately to send some support immediately so that they can buy a tent. It's a plastic tent. And when somebody calls and says that children didn't sleep all night, and I was trying to calm them because the two houses surrounding us were bombarded. So it's like, you feel you have to fight yourself and reassure to yourself, we can, we will, there is hope. And then you put songs, these songs that give you hope, these songs that give you, that say, yes, there is a better tomorrow to help you. And people like you and people like others who call to make our voices be out. This is important so that we can continue and feeling and, holding very much to our humanity, because this is the real war. It's on the humanity of the humans on this land.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, just staying, I suppose, on the question of feminism, one of the questions I'd like to ask you is your opinion on whether you think globally the feminist movement has done enough to call out the violence and the impact of violence particularly suffered by women and children. Or has there been a level of disinterest? People have referred to it as a deafening silence when the usual loud speakers and advocates for women around the world have chosen to remain silent on this issue or have said very, very little. I tend to agree with that statement just from doing my own research, and I wonder why you think that might be the case.
Yes, what has been done by the side of the international big women's organizations, feminist figures and organizations, I think that is not enough. And one of the things that when I was asked this by one friend, I said maybe one of the reasons is that I know of two organizations that in the past wars against Gaza, they were publicly against it and they were threatened. Mm-hmm. They received threats by Israeli lawyers based in for example, one of them is Lawyers for Israel that is based in the UK, and they threatened one of these organizations and they said, they threatened them. And then another one was threatened, and I think part of the funds were cut because they were publicly protesting and supporting the Palestinian women's organizations and against the war in Gaza. So maybe they are afraid of being threatened again. Maybe they are afraid, and this is this is part of the whole thing. Is that this Zionist system is strong enough to go out and threaten others if they are publicly with us. This is one thing.
Yeah.
Another thing, another idea is that now there is no excuse, and there will be one day that we have to open this discussion openly, because in the beginning some were saying that all organizations, all the work were taken by surprise.
Okay.
And then they said we all were taken by surprise. Okay, if you are surprised and you are allowed to be surprised for 1 month, for 2 months, mm-hmm. What in the third month? It's the third month and the attacks are going on and you are still surprised. So my invitation is to revise your role, to revise your existence, to revise your mission and vision if you are not able at this very critical moment in humanity to say, to be active and go out of the secured zone that you have put for yourself.
Yeah. It's just...
it's an invitation for many of them to revise their role on how they did on this critical time in the time of humanity, in our present history.
Sure. And it just strikes me as, we're watching this in real time. A genocide unfolding against Palestinian civilians. And, it's just, there seems to be a lack of kind of engagement around justice for women and children that perhaps we have seen in other, wars and other cases that you could describe as similar to what's happening here, which is quite worrying. It seems to be almost like a disregard for women and children's lives there. But as you said, hopefully now people are less shocked and more inclined to act. So just, I suppose, looking at some of the other figures that are really startling, and just to ask your opinion on them. Just Hiba Tibi, who is the Acting Deputy Regional Director for Care, has commented that mothers eat once a day in favour of their children's health, and that in Gaza, women are the last to eat and children are the first to die. And they are observations that have also been contained within UN documents. So I guess with everything that's happening right now, and as we're seeing it unfold, as the world is turning towards the court to have everything delivered in its legal submissions, what's next for your work and, you know, the organisations that you're associated with? Are you going to act maybe in line with what the outcome, if we do have an outcome within a few weeks around the protective measures from the ICJ? How will it shape your work going forward? I mean, there is a real sense of urgency here, and, you know, these women and children need urgent attention now. What can organisations do, you know, to speed things up and to try and provide some level of assistance?
You know, related to this question and the previous one, and me personally, I have been saying always to delegations, to groups that come to hear from us, that while Zionism is here in this land, and it's a Zionist colonialist system that is operating, Zionism, I think that it's all over the place. Is in Europe, it's in the United States, and in many other in international organizations. And so the Zionist idea of who has rights more than others, and this classification of people, and very easily to say Palestinians are terrorists, Islam is I don't know what, the poor I don't know, you know, this racist discourse, even if it's not as clear as I am saying it now, but it takes different forms, exist in many organizations, international organizations, and governments. Sure. So this is one of the reasons. It's the mentality when you look at things. And about what we are doing, for example, in Action Aid, there is a lot of work in press releases, contacting, the decision makers, giving information, trying to put the voice of the Palestinian people in Gaza out, trying to raise awareness on specific cases. All this is not enough, but all this is just like a first aid going on.
Yes.
And the political body that make the decisions on the Palestinian issue are the ones that we have to really make pressure on them. Because imagine if the crossing of Rafah is open, and all the trucks that are waiting to come into Gaza can enter, then less people will die from hunger or from dirty water. More that the children will have the milk that they need. The mothers will have better places where to hold their newborns. Sick people, elderly people with chronic diseases will have, So one of the things is to make a pressure, and on the priority, very, very priority, is a humanitarian corridor to be open, all the trucks and all the aid to come into Gaza without restrictions. People will be able to at least to have their day and their night under less stress and less afraid of being killed in any time. The tents will be protected. There is a lot that can be done if this humanitarian corridor is open and the trucks are coming on. Utmost priority. The other priority, and I think that even higher than this one, is the ceasefire immediately. And that's it. So it's ceasing the fire, stop attacking the people in Gaza, open the crossing, allow all the aid to come in, allow all the human rights mechanisms to come and write their reports, open the investigations on what happened. There is a list of things that should be done immediately, but will not be done as long as the fire is going on the heads of the Palestinian people, civilians in Gaza.
Yeah, like defeats
And
the
this is the
purpose.
is the biggest challenge, I think, and it's politically more than humanitarian.
Yes. Gosh. Without a ceasefire, basically nothing else really it can happen. And I mean, we've heard awful accounts yesterday about the minimal amount of aid that's getting through. That's necessary, and in particular in this episode we've looked at women and children. Just for listeners as well, Soraida, if anybody wants to know more about your work, or even is there any way anybody can contribute or learn more or do anything in terms of activity to support Palestinians who are suffering, but also women and children in particular, can you give any advice on that?
Yes, one of the things is maybe Alianza por la Solidaridad, Action Aid Spain. They can get in there, and there is a way how to donate. Action Aid Palestine, Action Aid Federation also, they can do this. There are other organizations working in the United States and within Palestine. They can they can look for it if they want to donate money, and if they want also to know more, or to organize, like, for example, a meeting with youth and listen from them and have an exchange of ideas and listen first aid. First instance person. We can facilitate this, woman to woman, youth to youth, professions. Anyone that is interested, they can reach us. And we can, coordinate these meetings. Through these meetings, people can understand better and know that they have a role. And I believe that everyone in this world has a responsibility and has a role, even if it's small, And sometimes we say that your role is do the good things within your own little space. This will help keep positively and humanity. That the more people do this, the more people believe in this, the more people will be against any atrocity against anyone. And if you can see that in the United States, all those who are going into the streets very actively, and then they go to the Congress and put themselves in the Congress, are Jewish against Zionism. And they say, never again, and not in our name. Yeah. So this is the kind of awareness that humans should have, because they had an experience and they are now against it to be repeated to anyone. We all should be like this. It's like, no, we don't want any place in this world to have what's happening now in Gaza, what's happening now in the West Bank. It's also horrible. Yeah. They are killing every day. It's a minimum 3 or 4 youth Palestinians killed by Israeli troops in the West Bank. Sure. So it's raising your voice through even the little, and don't underestimate your role as a citizen of the world. You can do.
Yes, absolutely. That is just fantastic. Soraida Hussein, thank you so much for joining us today. We'll certainly share links to your organisations and links to ActionAid as well for anybody interested in donating and supporting that organisation, which is providing vital support to Palestinians during this time. Thank you so much, Soraida.
You're welcome, Sarah. Thank you for this effort.
Thanks everyone for joining me today. If you like the show, please remember to share and leave a review if you have a moment. And you can also check out our website, www.activistlawyer.com, where you will see some blog articles written by our guests and contributors, as well as some fabulous Activist Lawyer merchandise.
This podcast was recorded in Granite Podcast Studio. Interested in starting up your own podcast but don't know how? Granite Podcast Studio can help. Record your podcast in our state-of-the-art studio, which is based in the heart of Newry City. Our studio has cutting-edge and user-friendly technology and can seat up to 4 people. We also provide an editing service for our team, using your guidance and editing notes to provide you with a flawless finished product, leaving your listeners wanting more. For more information on how you can get started, visit www.granitepodcaststudio.com.